Hey, it's Mo Egger. This football season, post up at Long Neck Sports Grill. No place has a better beer selection, and if you haven't tried Long Neck's wings yet, what are you waiting for? The menu is extensive, and there's a ton of 4K TVs all over the place. And remember, at Long Neck's, the sound is on for all the big games. College or pro, this football season, make Long Neck your go-to spot for every game. Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood, Long Neck Sports Grill. Stay long, come often. All right, we do this once a week. We chat with one of the experts from OrthoCincy, orthopedics and sports medicine. The great thing about OrthoCincy is they've got specialist locations and services all over the tri-state. This includes walk-in orthopedic urgent care at 5 locations with extended evening and weekend hours in Edgewood and Anderson. Learn more at OrthoCincy.com. That's OrthoCincy.com. Dr. Nick Early from OrthoCincy is with us. I got to ask you about Spencer Steer's rib. But first, Joe Burrow. The surgery has happened, and everybody is clinging to this timeline, this best-case timeline. 3 months, he can maybe come back and play. So based on what you know, and we'll go through his rehab process, is the 3-month timeline, which feels very, very optimistic, is it at all realistic?
Yeah, so just as you mentioned, 3 months would probably be about the best case scenario. So after you have a surgery where you're repairing a turf toe type of injury, there's a period of time where you're off your foot, and you really just got to allow that to heal. And so you really can't do a whole lot during that time. And then there's some limited amount of therapy things you can do to try to reduce swelling or do some things to kind of help with just kind of early recovery type of stuff. But you really can't do a whole lot from a physical standpoint. So the beginning, you're just kind of healing up. And then you kind of start, working your way back a little bit towards weight bearing and doing things. So really 3 months is kind of the earliest that you're able to really start doing more high level athletic activity. So oftentimes it can take longer than that. And so I think when you're looking at, okay, we'll come back to play, start doing the math, then things start to come into play with, is it worth the risk? How many games are left, that type of thing.
So walk me through the rehab process. Obviously, I'm sure he's still in recovery mode, but when he starts to rehab, kind of just walk me through what that's going to look like up until his actual return to the field.
Sure. So once you get through the early recovery phase where you can start putting more weight on it, start doing more dynamic activity, early on it's very slow. You're just starting to get things moving again. And then it's kind of a gradual increase in trying to put more force on it and acclimate your body once again to everything. And then you start, working back towards those more dynamic activities, where you're trying to be able to run, push off, jump, do all those things that, are required in order to play football.
Are there potential setbacks, and what are they?
For sure. Early on after any surgery, there's always some, potential for complications. So those things are pretty rare, especially in a young, healthy person, things like incisional issues or infection or those types of things. So those are, less of a concern. More so you're worried about just, pain, swelling initially, just kind of being able to work through that so you can start doing some of those rehab type of activities. As you're rehabbing, it's critical not to go too fast so that you don't re-injure the repair. And that's probably the biggest thing. It's just making sure that you're kind of following, a protocol that really, focuses on trying to work back towards that activity, the targeted date, but at the same time, making sure that you're kind of, being smart about it so that you don't undo what you did.
So there's only so much that he can do, and yet you want to maintain conditioning, you want to maintain cardio, you want to maintain strength. What can be done to do that while he is recovering and rehabbing this injury to his foot?
That's a great question. So there are some things you can do, once you're able to move around a little bit. There's definitely some different ways to kind of keep your cardio up without, being able to run. Oftentimes, you'll get people in a pool and start doing some stuff that can kind of, work your muscles in a certain way. There's a lot of different kind of, different machines and different things that training rooms have that can kind of help with that. There's like a treadmill that has, is a ability to kind of reduce the stress you're putting on your lower extremities when you're starting to work on walking and running as well. So there's a lot of different cool technological things, but at the same time, a lot of it just has to do with just kind of slowly working back and acclimating.
One more on Joe Burrow specifically. The Bengals play in Denver on Monday. He is not allowed to travel with the team. Why would that be?
Early on, I don't know if there's any particulars in that situation just regarding, roster spots or anything like that. But early on, right after a surgery, there's somewhat of a risk of, of traveling or sitting in one position for a long period of time. Sometimes you're a little bit concerned about traveling just in terms of possibilities of blood clots or other things like that. So sometimes people will be recommended not to travel for, a period of time. Oftentimes that's not the case, for a foot surgery, as much as it would be for certain other types of injuries, but that may be a consideration.
One more to ask you about, Spencer Steer, who obviously has kind of caught fire here recently, but I read last week that he was dealing with a rib issue, a rib that popped out of place, and they apparently popped it back in place. I can't tell you how painful that sounds. So, number one, how does a rib get dislocated? Number two, how does this work when we pop a rib back in place?
Good question. So, interestingly, your ribs are, kind of attached to your, and like kind of two, you can think about them as like, okay, it's a long skinny bone. It's kind of attached in two ends. So on the back, it's attached to your spine, and there's kind of two little spots where it kind of sits up against your spine. There's, a bunch of ligaments that kind of attach it there. And the front, depending on which ribs you're talking about, it's kind of either attached directly to your sternum, your breastbone, or, there's some like cartilage that's kind of the lower ones can be attached to. So at either of those spots, there's a possibility of things kind of, shifting out of place or something happen. You can imagine, and somebody who's putting on extreme, torque forces on their upper body, like a, baseball player, high level, who obviously has really strong upper body, is able to, swing through with their trunk, a really high energy, that could potentially cause some issues there in terms of instability. It's a pretty uncommon injury. It's hard to diagnose sometimes. If that happens and there's like a little bit of instability or something slips out of place, sometimes it's difficult to even image that or see that. And so sometimes it does take somebody who's really adept at kind of figuring out, okay, hey, this seems like this may be, what's going on. In terms of the actual techniques, for trying to get things like that back into place, a lot of times it is, a chiropractor or somebody who has more, hands-on experience with manipulation or certain types of, modalities. It's not usually anything that's going to be like a surgical thing. Rarely do people have like instability issues with the ribs that require surgery. That's not a very common thing, but it is one of those interesting injuries that oftentimes is missed.
Yeah, I don't think I had ever read about a rib being popped back into place. I'm hopeful I never have to deal with that. Awesome insight as always. I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you.
All right, there you go. Dr. Nick Early from OrthoCincy. We say it every week because it's true. The great thing about OrthoCincy is they have specialists and locations all over the tri-state. This includes walk-in orthopedic urgent care weekdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at both Edgewood and Anderson. It's easy because you do not need an appointment, and it's definitely cheaper than going to an ER whenever you have an urgent orthopedic injury. Check out OrthoCincy.com. That's OrthoCincy.com. Hey, it's Mo Egger. This football season, post up at Long Neck Sports Grill. No place has a better beer selection, and if you haven't tried Long Neck's wings yet, what are you waiting for? The menu is extensive, and there's a ton of 4K TVs all over the place. And remember, at Long Necks, the sound is on for all the big games. College or pro, this football season, make Long Necks your go-to spot for every game. Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood, Long Neck Sports Grill. Stay long, come often.